a lot of sky in the picture here because the branches are bare, but I don't want to have the bare branches. On the other hand, I just adore cobalt blue next to orange. So I'm going to put some in. The thing to do is to decide where I'm going to have this bright sky. I don't want to paint the whole of the top here, but to include a bit. And while I've got it there, I'm going to put some of it down here too. You remember that very runny paint that we did? Well, I'm hoping to do a bit of that down here, and the rest it is misbehaving. So there we are. So I've put a bit of something to catch the drips there. Right, okay. So I think that will probably do for that. I want to suggest here on the picture that it goes back quite a distance. So for that reason, I'm going to mix in some pale blue there, and I'm going to add a little bit of purple. Just splashing the color on. I'm not trying to be too careful with it. And if I add a little touch of burnt sienna, shoulder brush, and a little bit more white. Got this sort of muddy grey sort of color in there. Okay. Right. Now then, clean the brush. This is why I get in such a mess. Right, so I'm going to think about the autumn colors there. Mop up some of this. It doesn't take too much. And I'm going to start to put the autumn colors in. So we have the orange. I'm just splashing it on where I feel it's going to be the most use. Give me what I want. These are, if you like, the foreground trees. So the color can be as bright and as dramatic as I want it to be. That's a tree trunk, Steve. Bit of cadmium yellow. Very casual, one hand in your pocket, just enjoy yourself. Right, if we bring this down here, oops, that's the tree trunk again. You can paint it out, you know, there's no absolute end oil painting. You can cover it very easily. Touch of alizarin now. And you do get dark bits. They tend to be on the underside if the light's coming from the top, so you get the dark bits on the underside of trees. Now, I'm not going to do it there because they will be against the the dark trunk. Here it might have a bit of dark. And there will be the odd smudge of dark in the light. Gorgeous, isn't it? When did I last look at the picture? Tell me. Forgotten about it. When I drew it in, I think. Now, there is some on the ground here, isn't there? So, oh, yes, let's get a bit back. Can you hand me that bottle? That's the fella. This is called zested. And it's a soap substitute. Right. So I want to get that in there. Come on, you. I want you to run. This runny bit down here is preparation for those cobblestones. I think I preferred that when it was blue up there. Never mind. See what happens. Okay. Right. Now, see the brush. Very rough and ready clean. I want to be super specially clean. I would wash it properly with turps or use a different brush. Right, now, I'm going to put in some green. The thing about green is if you put white in it, it deadens it. If you want to make your green paler, add yellow first anyway. You might find that by adding yellow, you can get a green that works quite nicely. And because I haven't mixed it totally, I'm getting variation in color anyway. On the green. A bit more yellow. Touching the top of the a bit more green. Well, this green is fine. Quite happy with that green there. By the way, if you've got a path in your picture, never run the corner of the path. The edge, never take the path off through the corner of the picture. Always lift it a bit so that it's further up this side, or push it along a bit so it's a bit along here. It just doesn't make for a good composition. What were they doing? Green. Not quite sure where the path ends. You might want to do. This is probably tearing the pants off you a bit. Thing about oil paints is it really doesn't matter what you do. Because if it's wrong, you can always put it right. We've got same applies to acrylics, yeah. Because you can paint over. See, for instance, that great splodge there is not helping. I can take it out. And with my green, reinstate some of the green there. Right. Now, what will probably help the picture and might maybe put your mind at ease if I put in the trunks of the trees. So again, use some of the Van Dyke brown. And we have this. I'm going to look because I drew them in carefully and I've practically lost it. Right. Now it won't stay this color. Just sort of reinstating where it is. So saying that this is a tree. And it is way off in this direction. It's See what happens to brushes. Right. I need a bit more green. Put out wax, and I never ever put out. The last thing you want to do is to be struggling with not enough paint. Well, it's quite a nice green, but I'm going to add a bit of white to it just to um, bring some definition to. Not enough. Bring some definition to the slope there. Never enough time. Not quite sure what's happening up there, so put in something indeterminate. It would help if I got a puff in, wouldn't it? And the puff is here. Just don't like that bit. Too heavy by heart. I mean, the pathing has made a difference. And you can see that now that's running down. Continue to run down for the whole of the pardon? Yes. Well, that's what I want. I want it to be runny so that it suggests the top of the cobbles, and then I'll put the dirt between the cobbles in with a fine brush right at the end. So this is the cobbles, and that's why I'm trying to get as much color variation in here at this stage while it's running as I can. Because it just helps. Yeah. So I can actually paint the lighter pebbles on top if I want. Sorry, not pebbles, they're sets, granite sets. And it goes into a gravel path. So that makes a nice transition. But what has happened, I hope, I stand back and have a look. Yes, we've got the autumn trees, we've got the brightness up at the top. We've got the greenery down at the bottom and the possibility of something with the path. That blue could be a bit more singing, so I can reinstate that next week when I make a bit more sense of the shape of the trees up there. But it just gives you an idea of the explosion of color and basically how to treat the paint. Don't pussyfoot around trying to paint into edges. Let your arm go. This is why I'm standing up, so I'm not doing this. I'm using my arm or my wrist or the elbow, so you get the whole thing's going. And of course, if you're standing, you can keep standing back and saying, is it making sense? The whole thing is crude beyond belief, but it's got the picture there in essence. What it means is I can spend the next 2 weeks refining the detail. So I can start to think about the fall of the leaves and how to get them in, a bit more about the background, a bit more about the contrast with the sky, what the branches are going to look like, where I want the leaves to go, and how I want the colors to shape the picture. So that has just about disappeared now. It was the source of where if I tried to draw a lot of trees in a path, the trees would become far too evenly placed and too regular in shape. So the idea of having something that's a real scene where the trees aren't regimented and they've grown in different ways, it just gives a bit more verisimilitude to the picture. And it just makes it more interesting.